AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio.
Let's ride! Woo!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. I'm Matt.
Love you, Matt.
Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
You so. And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Saints, we're back on the practice field today. LSU opened up fall camp. I was there. We'll give you a full camp report. Let's begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
All right, y'all. LSU hit the practice field for the first time in fall camp. Media was allowed to watch the entire workout. First 15 minutes or so indoors at the indoor practice facility. Then they moved outdoors for the final 45 minutes or so. And we got to see some individual drills where guys are just working with their position group, hitting sleds and doing a lot of things that wouldn't really catch anybody's eye. We did get to see some team period, some hurry up, no huddle, some 7-on-7, some 11-on-11, both in the 2-minute and in a normal scrimmage type situation. And so I want to run through all that. Probably going to need these first two segments to get through everything, to unpack the whole thing. But let me start by kind of giving you some big picture overview stuff that we noticed. And then I'll get into some of the nuance, top performers, stuff like that as well. Let's hear a lot of what Brian Kelly had to say because Kelly did meet with reporters after practice. So I guess to start, maybe the first thing that's most important to note is that they were really healthy. The only guy that was limited today was Nick Anderson, and Brian Kelly said it afterwards. Nick Anderson was in a car wreck. Wilson Alexander, the Advocate, was the first to report that while we're at SEC Media Days. Nick Anderson was in a car wreck because of the concussion, the protocol of coming back. He had to, I guess they have to sort of like, to clear protocol, he's got to practice without contact, and so they're not really hitting each other anyway. So Nick Anderson didn't participate in the team drills. He did individual work, but not team work today. And then he'll be back tomorrow. The only guy that's injured is Solomon Thomas, the freshman 5-star offensive lineman. When the media availability with Brian Kelly had ended, I went up to him after and asked him, was there anybody else limited? I was trying to get the microphone back, and it didn't come back to me. So he told me that Solomon Thomas broke his 5th metatarsal. Apparently that's a bone in your foot. I didn't know that. I had to look it up. But so he's got a broken bone in his foot. He's out a month, so he'll miss camp and then be back for the start of the season. But if we're being realistic, Solomon Thomas was probably in competition for backup reps. It just means it'll take him a little longer to come along. But we'll get to the offensive line here in just a smidge. So think about all the players coming into this camp that were coming off of injuries. Harold Perkins, full go. Coming off the ACL in a purple defense jersey. So, again, if guys are not in contact, they're in red, no contact jerseys. Harold Perkins was in a purple jersey, and by the way, not wearing a knee brace either. Jacobian Guillory, coming off the ruptured Achilles in his purple jersey, his purple number 90 jersey, working with the D-line, no limitations, no restrictions, doing the whole thing. Jordan Gilbert, who had shoulder surgery after the season, missed spring, was out there running with the safeties, no limitations. They were as healthy as you could possibly imagine. I mean, the only guy that has an injury right now that's in any way limited is Solomon Thomas, the freshman offensive lineman, who's going to be out for about a month. So the way they structured practice, initially indoors, they did stretch, they did team, individual periods, and then they went into a team session where it was a hurry up, no huddle. They went outside and did 7-on-7, then some more individual drill, then another team period that we got to see. I'll tell you, let's start with kind of how they lined up some of those personnel decisions, and then I'll get into some of the individual performers that made big plays and some of that sort of stuff. The most notable thing that happened today, in my opinion, is Brian Kelly acknowledged Braylon Moore as the team's starting center. He talked about it after practice. He gave an update on the offensive line battle. And the most notable thing is that Braylon Moore ran with the ones. Remember, in spring, Braylon Moore and DJ Chester were rotating at center. Braylon Moore is the starting center, and Brian Kelly made that known.
Well, we're still competing for positions. You saw what we did. Braylon Moore moved into the center position. DJ Chester moved to left guard, so you guys can figure that one out. But DJ is going to compete with Paul. And on the right side, Josh is going to compete with Colin Eccles. That's competition. Karis Kern is going to push Tyree. Bordelon's going to push Weston Davis. Those are pretty much, what you should be seeing and, how that will move. There'll be some times that maybe DJ, slides in at center. We got a guy that played 13 games at center. Let's keep him sharp. So I think you'll see some moving around there, but there's competitive battles right now. We have to evaluate them as a group of 5, and then individually, who makes up that best 5.
So the most notable part is if you looked at the second offensive line, Braden Augustus, a walk-on, was running as the second center. And Brian Kelly explained to you why. So Braylon Moore is your starter. Remember, in spring, Moore would run first team, Chester would run second team. They'd flip. It was back, and those guys are playing center. Braylon Moore is your starter at center, and they are trying to get DJ Chester ready to play left guard. So DJ Chester isn't going to take reps with the first team at left guard and then go right back out there with the second team and play center. They're going to get more guys active. Well, Cohen Eccles is the other center. Well, you heard Brian Kelly say it. Cohen Eccles is battling Josh Thompson for the right guard spot. Josh Thompson, the Northwestern transfer, who, boy, he had a couple of rough moments today. We'll tell you about that in a second. But you're not going to have Cohen Eccles playing center with the second team when he's trying to win the guard spot. So he's going with the second team at guard. So, listen, if they get into a game scenario, and God forbid if something were to happen to Braylon Moore, DJ Chester or Cohen Eccles is going to play center. It's not going to be Braden Augustus, but it goes to show you where the emphasis is. Braylon Moore is your center. You've got DJ Chester and Paul Mabenga battling for the left guard spot. Josh Thompson, Cohen Eccles battling for the right guard spot. Tyree and Weston Davis are your tackles, and behind them are Karis Kern and Bo Bordelon. Like, that's what we know as of right now. Those are your 10 best, and those are the guys that are vying for spots right now. So the starting offensive line left to right is exactly what we thought it would be. Adams, Chester, Moore, Thompson, Davis. They ran the veteran receivers were the first ones out there. Aaron Anderson, Chris Hilton, Xavion Thomas. Trey Dez and Bauer Sharp both took reps with the ones. The first thing they did out there with running the first team offense, Bauer Sharp was the first tight end, but there were times the ones out there and it was Trey Dez. So we got to see both those guys run a lot. Caden Durham, Garrett Nussmeier were the quarterback running back combo as expected. Your second team offense left to right was Karis Kern, Paul Mabenga, Braden Augustus, we just explained that. Cohen Eccles at right guard, Bo Bordelon at right tackle. Your second team receivers are Berrien Brown, Kyle Parker, and Destin Hill. By the way, Berrien Brown, I'll tell you about the team period in just a second, but he had, whatever Mark Stoops was doing in Lexington to Berrien Brown is coaching malpractice. I cannot believe that guy was so underutilized in Lexington for an offense that was atrocious. Play backyard ball, just snap it to him and let him go see what he can do. That would at least be somewhat effective. Anyway, Caleb Jackson, second team running back. Michael Van Buren, the second team quarterback, as we all know. On defense, Jack Pyburn, Gabe Relaford were the first team ends. Ahmad Bro, who switched to number 16, by the way. So we went from 93 to 16. It takes some getting used to. As I do these camp reports, I always jot down numbers instead of names. And so if you've been with us for a while, you know there's going to be a good while where I'm just calling out numbers. But Ahmad Bro, Dom McKinley were the starting interior linemen. West and Whit Weeks were at linebacker. Harold Perkins at star. Your first team cornerbacks were Mansour Delane, Ashton Stamps. And then your safeties were Tamarcus Cooley and Jordan Gilbert. Remember, Tamarcus Cooley was at LSU in spring. A.J. Halsey was not. A.J. Halsey, the safety transfer from Houston, came in the spring portal. And so A.J. Halsey and Javen Toviano initially were with the second team defense at safety. Halsey's wearing 13, by the way. And when we're inside, we're up on the catwalk. And so you don't really get a good sense for the size and dimension of these guys. When you're outside, we're field level, standing on the sideline right next to them. A.J. Halsey is a thick dude. Like, that is a dude who we know can turn and run and cover, but my goodness, is he going to be able to help in run defense as well? He is a dude with a thick lower half. Your second defense was Patrick Payton, Jamari Butler at end, Sadir Mitchell, Bernard Gooden at tackle. So, by the way, the four names I just rattled off to you, Payton, Butler, Mitchell, Gooden, 4 transfers. Devon Keys, Charles Ross were your second-team linebackers. Charles Ross, of course, was a freshman who was in studio with us just about a month or so ago. He looks the part, wearing number 30, 6'2", 230 pounds, fills out the uniform. He looks awesome. Tylen Singleton ran at second-team star. He actually came up with a sack. We'll talk more about Tylen Singleton, but my goodness, that's a guy. They have him listed now. He's wearing 46. They have him at 6'1", 226. I don't know what he was listed as a freshman, and I don't know if that 6'1", 226 is accurate. He looks bigger than that. But Tylen Singleton looks like a guy that from year 1 to year 2 has really transformed his body. Looks very good. And then P.J. Woodland and D.J. Pickett were your cornerbacks with the second team. I mentioned Deshaun Spears. He was the odd man out in that first indoor team period with Cooley and Gilbert running with the first team, Toviano, Halsey with the second team. But when they went outside, we saw Spears run both with the ones and the twos. So I think safety, like we talked about, with our sort of big camp storylines, offensive line, safety, probably the two biggest camp storylines. Offensive line, there might be some competition. It feels like, barring something dramatically unforeseen, we know how that's going to be, at least for game 1 against Clemson. Safety feels pretty wide open. And this is a starting point, but they got 5 dudes vying for 2 spots. And it wouldn't surprise me at all how it all shaked out with the 5 guys that they have out there vying for those 2 spots. But we'll continue to follow it through. So that's kind of an overview of how they set up practice and who was with the ones and the twos. Let me come back. I'll run through some of the play-by-play of the team drills and some of the eye-popping individual standout performances and some takeaways. Just day 1, not overreacting to anything, just passing along what we saw after one day out on the Ponderosa. Our show open every day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of the LSU Tigers, the official beer of your New Orleans Saints. Of course, LSU. By the way, the new LSU aluminum bottles, the 16-ounce aluminum bottles, they should be on shelves here in another week or so. So excited about it. This was last year's, which is here with us on the set. But the newly designed Bud Light aluminum bottle should be hitting shelves here in another week or 2. Can't wait to have it here on set with us to show it, and hopefully to see many of you out and about raising a glass. Of course, tomorrow we'll be doing the show at Court to Table on Burbank. Come out, grab you an ice cold Bud Light, watch the show, hang out, watch the Hall of Fame game as the first NFL preseason game is on Thursday. And we'll look forward to raising an ice cold Bud Light with all of you. This Bud's for you. Cheers, my friends at Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of the LSU Tigers. Okay, quick break. Come back. I'll continue the fall camp day 1 practice report, the individual standouts and some of the play-by-play that we saw. That's next here on AFR.
After further review.
We're brought to you by the Watermark and the Renaissance. How about the Watermark Hotel in downtown Baton Rouge? They are just about to celebrate their 100th year since that building opened, a century. It's kind of incredible. This year is the building's centennial. I told you, it's the old Louisiana National Bank building. It was the original high-rise 100 years ago in downtown Baton Rouge. Well, leading up to the centennial celebration in October, They're going to have so much real cool stuff going on. They'll have a Century hotel package. They're going to have other really cool things. They're going to have I don't know how much of this I could tell, but there's going to be really cool giveaways and sort of like Easter egg hunts throughout not literal Easter egg hunts, but like golden tickets throughout the hotel. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to tell you more. If you haven't been inside the Watermark Hotel, you got to. Either to have dinner, have a drink, or to stay the night. It's Watermark Baton Rouge.
After further review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
It's the first day. We were out there for an hour. Essentially, just so you know where we're at, see this card? This card's got numbers on it, jersey numbers. I'm trying to figure out who's got what jersey on, okay? So you can imagine where I'm at after day one. So having said that, let's have a conversation that bears that in mind.
A month from now, he still won't know all their names. I mean, it's what it is. But anyway, Brian Kelly, but he's not wrong. Day one, he wasn't, after a 1 hour workout, he wasn't looking forward to getting out there and answering questions about who had a great day and where it was more big picture stuff going into this season. And I can certainly understand that. If you're just joining us, thanks for being here. It did start the show with a little 10,000 foot view of how the day went. Who was lining up where. Everyone's healthy, which is the great news. The only person that's not is freshman offensive lineman Solomon Thomas, but Harold Perkins, Jordan Gilbert, Jacobian Guillory, all no limitation. They were all out there, full speed, no limitations whatsoever, which is great to see. When they went into team periods, y'all, the first team period they ran was indoors. And the offense started at the 10, and it was in every play, no matter the result of the play, they moved the ball 10 yards. So they were running a hurry-up, no huddle, effectively a 2-minute drill. So no matter what happened on the play, they advanced the ball 10 yards. So they were just going right down the field. I'm here to tell you, they didn't need the help. Watching that first series gave me a little bit of a flashback to 2023. Because typically, on the first day, it favors the defense. Offense needs timing and continuity, and there's play call, and there's so much more sequencing and just getting the whole operation together. It's the snap count, it's the effectiveness of the snap, it's the wide receivers running the correct routes, it's the quarterback and receiver having the timing. There's just a lot more that goes into the offense. Defense can play a little more instinctive. So typically, the defense is ahead of the offense. In 2023, I'll never forget it. Watching that first day of fall camp, and I left the practice facility, got my car, and I called into Live at Lunch with Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff. And they wanted a practice report. And I was a little flabbergasted. Be like, guys, I don't think the defense won a rep. And I went back and check your notes, and the offense, it didn't matter. Those receivers were winning every rep. And it was bad. Like, the defense couldn't get a stop. And so we're all wondering, well, is the offense really this good, or is the defense this bad? And the answer was yes. I mean, it ended up being literally the number one offense in the country. It was Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. I mean, they were incredible. Mason Taylor, they were awesome. And then I thought you were trying.
Mason Taylor!
But then the defense was atrocious as well. On the first series of team drills inside, Caden Durham ran it. They threw a screen pass to Caden Durham. He ran again on a zone read. The fourth play, Xavion Thomas on the left sideline on a stop route, gets about 10 yards. He beats Mansour Delane. Great job coming back to the ball, making a catch in traffic. They ran a middle screen to Bauer Sharp, who was crossing over from right to left. On the sixth play, they're at the 40-yard line, on the plus 40. On the sixth play, Nuss, hard count, defense jumps. He's got a free play. Barry and Brown right side, go route. Burns Ashton Stamps. Had him beat by 2-3 yards. Nuss drops it in a bucket, touchdown. Brown fires the ball against the padding in the end zone, kind of giving a flex. And I thought to myself immediately, what the hell was Mark Stoops doing with this guy? I mean, that's Ashton Stamps, who's about to be a 3-year starter. Dude, on his first day, is dusting a veteran corner from LSU. I mean, it was something to behold, that first series. It was jarring to see just how effective and efficient the offense right down the field. Then the twos went out there, and the whole script flipped. The second defense overwhelmed the second offense. Tylen Singleton had a sack. Patrick Payton had a sack. They had a pressure on Van Buren, so he just dropped the ball over the middle, incomplete. He had another throwaway because of pressure. They after 6 plays with Van Buren, they put Colin Hurley in for 2 plays, and on back-to-back plays, he threw balls to defenders that were nearly intercepted. P.J. Woodland dropped an interception when he jumped a screen intended for J.T. Lindsey, and then D.J. Pickett dropped an interception on the next play. I didn't jot down who the ball was intended for. Like, the second defense overwhelmed the second offense, which I think is pretty self-explanatory. You look at that second defense and you go, okay, well, there's Patrick Payton, who's played 4 years of football. Jamari Butler, who's a 6th-year senior who spent 5 years in the Big Ten going against true freshman Karius Kern. Like Sadir Mitchell and Bernard Gooden on the interior of that defensive line. You got Woodland and Pickett out there on the boundaries. Toviano and Halsey were your safeties. Halsey was all conference last year in the Big 12. Like, that second defense overwhelmed the second offense, which makes you feel really good about the depth on this defense, because there's good players on that offense. The depth on the defense. So they go outside, and they're running, I guess it maybe should have been like a 7-on-7, but really was a 5-on-7. Later, the offense added another player, so it was 6-on-7. But effectively, the defense had numbers. This is a drill designed to benefit the defense. It's just quarterback and skill guys against linebacker secondary. There's no linemen. Nuss started 7 for 7. It was something to see. He threw a couple of completions to Destin Hill, one over the middle. Destin Hill catches the ball with Ashton Stamps in coverage. And they're both standing. It was tight coverage. And Stamps is trying to swipe the ball. And Destin Hill just one arm with the ball, one arm like just shoves Ashton Stamps to the ground. Like, I know we're not talking about Destin Hill, but Destin Hill is this year's C.J. Daniels. They love him. He's physical. He can block. He'll catch the ball in traffic. He's not going to be your home run hitter, but he's got great hands. He catches the ball. He's physical. He'll block. Like, Destin Hill's going to play. He's wearing number 2, by the way. Like, Destin Hill is going to play on this team. You might say, why? It's going to happen. Like, people go, why is Destin Hill on the field and not Nick Anderson or Barry and who fill in the amazing receiver? And that's why. They're all going to get reps, but that dude is going to play. Destin Hill also had a one-handed catch on the sideline. Elevated one-handed catch through traffic. It was a really impressive day. And so the offense continues overwhelming the defense. The ones are just dominating. Then they go back to an 11-on-11 period. And it was so encouraging because in this outdoor 11-on-11 period, that defense finally showed up in a major way outdoors. Patrick Payton had a TFL on Caden Durham. Patrick Payton went and worked with the ones in the second unit. Gabe Relaford had a sack. I mentioned earlier Josh Thompson having a little bit of a tough go. On back-to-back plays, Bernard Gooden, the transfer from South Florida, blew through Josh Thompson like a turnstile and got sacks on consecutive plays. Jamari Butler had a sack in this period. What else did I note? Beautiful catch by Kyle Parker with Tamarcus Cooley in coverage. Now, Jamari Butler was pressuring on that play, and he was with the ones in this series as well. Might have been a sack if they were actually tackling. It was close, or at least would have affected the pass if it was live. But in any event, it was a catch by Kyle Parker. The play of the day might have actually been Teron Francis. Teron Francis caught a ball down the left sideline with DJ Pickett draped around him like a freaking octopus. And, I mean, in traffic, and he came up with the ball, oohs and ahs all over the field. And I'm looking at this going, that's incredible coming from a guy who's not going to play a snap this year. That's the biggest takeaway, is how deep they are at receiver. And we've seen great receiving core. Newsflash, LSU has good receivers. But I've just told you about Aaron Anderson and Chris Hilton and Xavion Thomas and Barry Brown and Nick Anderson and Destin Hill. Oh, by the way, Bauer Sharp, Trey Green. That's 8 guys. And I haven't even talked about Kylan Billiot, Jelani Watkins, Kyle Parker, the incumbents, before you get to Francis, who's the number 11 on that list. All that to say, I think Teron Francis may be a fantastic receiver. He's just not going to play this year. There's just way too much depth ahead of him at receiver. And it is just really, really impressive. Keelan Moses had a great pass breakup, playing in the star position. Would have been a pick six. He jumped around, hit him in the face mask. He just didn't catch it. Would have been a pick six on the last play. I will say the one part about maybe if we're looking at the line of scrimmage, some of those sacks and things like that, it is fair. Our biggest question is the offensive line, right? And when you're looking at the two deep at end, you're talking about Relaford and Pyburn and Butler and Payton, and they're talented and veteran and really good. But they don't have pads on yet. So I'm going to reserve judgment on the offensive line with some of that stuff until they put on pads. And it is worth noting when they were indoors, nobody touched us. When they went outdoors, both were 11-on-11 periods. It's just the two 11-on-11 periods we saw. The offense had the upper hand in the first one. The defense had the upper hand in the second one. But we'll know much more about it when they put on pads and we can see more. But it was super encouraging to see. Just think about the names that I've mentioned to you here so far in this report. Barry Brown, Bernard Gooden, Patrick Payton, Jamari Butler. You noticing a trend? Bauer Sharp. You noticing a trend? They're all transfers. Destin Hill. They're all transfers. I mean, the transfer portal class showed up in a major way on day one to make their presence felt. LSU went invested in great players. And on day one, you could see it. They've got talent on the two deep on both sides of the ball. And this team is going to be really, really, really talented. They got a couple of weeks here of fall camp to put it all together before they turn the page to start getting ready for Clemson in the opener. And Brian Kelly's talked about it. Look, we're in the indoor. I don't know if you've never been in the LSU indoor facility on one of the sidelines. There's a giant screen. It's got to be 20 yards long. It's a giant, giant screen. And on that screen, it just has a gigantic 1-0 with the Tiger logo in the middle. It's just 1-0. 1-0 is what they're preaching everywhere, all along. They're not hiding from it. And today was a good first step. They'll be back on the practice field on Thursday with media availability. No media availability Friday. And then they're back on the practice field again Saturday, and we get to watch the full practice on Saturday. So we'll have practice reports. As long as LSU's out on the field and they let us watch, we'll tell you what we see. All right, brought to you by South Point Volkswagen, southpointvw.com, new and certified pre-owned in Baton Rouge and online at southpointvw.com, southpointvw.com. It's South Point Volkswagen. Look, I drove to Houston on Monday, did the show in Houston. Tuesday, woke up at 6 in the morning, got right back in my Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport, drove right back to Baton Rouge. On the open road, drives great gas mileage, and the safety features. All the safety features you could possibly want. Safest vehicles on the road. And when you buy from South Point Volkswagen, you get the comfort of knowing you're driving one of the safest vehicles on the road. You also know you're getting the great German engineering, so all the performance. They're manufactured here in the U.S. of A. at their Chattanooga, Tennessee plant. And because South Point Volkswagen is Louisiana's largest volume Volkswagen dealer, they sell more Volkswagens than anyone. They can give you a better deal than anyone. Like right now, 2025 Tiguan S for $299 a month on that 36-month lease. You can learn more right now at southpointvw.com. southpointvw.com. South Point Volkswagen, what's your direction? All right, y'all, glad to have you hanging out with us here. If you've got questions, if there's anything I haven't addressed, feel free to fire away. Email me, tweet me, text me. You can text the show in the 225-396-4400, 396-4400, 396-4400. Lots of ways that you can get involved in the show. Feel free to do that. Cat Terrell's here in 45 minutes. The Saints are back on the practice field again today. They did add a veteran offensive lineman. We'll talk a little bit about him coming up in 15 minutes from right now. And we got plenty to talk about. I want to sort of recap and reset everything Brian Kelly talked about after practice, so we'll sprinkle that in. It's just like a wall-to-wall football day, and we're glad to have you hanging out with us here. Don't you move. It's AFR.
After further review.
If you're thinking of a pool, think no further than Duplessis Builders. DuplessisBuilders.net, DuplessisBuilders.net. I've sung their praises for so long, but third-party validation sometimes can be the most powerful validation. And Pool & Spa Magazine voted Duplessis Builders a top 50 pool builder in America this year. They came in at number 26 on the list. No other company in Louisiana higher than Duplessis Builders. Number 26 in the country. And it's not just because they build beautiful pools. There are a lot of companies that build beautiful pools and have for a long time. There are a lot of great designers. The difference with Duplessis is that Derek Duplessis has an engineering background and they do not rush the process. He's very upfront. You can expect a 2-month-long process. Concept, the dig, spraying the concrete, letting it settle, all of it to the finishes, because they're never going to skip a step. That's why they can offer you a 10-year workmanship warranty. Learn more online, DuplessisBuilders.net.
After further review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
We didn't come here to just compete. We came here to win conference and national championships.
That is a now former LSU Chief Operating Officer Kelly Zinn, who is now Rutgers Athletic Director Kelly Zinn. Kelly Zinn was introduced on Wednesday out at Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, as their new athletics director. We had reported over the weekend. NJ.com was the first to report it, to be very clear, that they had targeted Kelly Zinn and that was going to get done. But we had it over Louisiana Sports.net over the weekend. It looked like Kelly Zinn was, in fact, in line to become the athletics director at Rutgers. And today she was introduced. Of course, as we explained, William Tate, the former LSU president who left for the same job at Rutgers, is the one who now hired Kelly Zinn as the new athletics director. So that familiarity was there. This was William Tate at the introductory press conference with Kelly Zinn.
I think we have one of the most talented athletic administrators in the United States who has joined us. One of the things that's extremely important with the athletic director and the president is trust. And you don't often get an opportunity to have already had it established. What unfolded during the process was that it was feasible to find someone who had generated significant revenue at a very high level in that past job. And I think that matched the job description that was put out. But simultaneously, that person had tremendous operational expertise. And so when you can marry the revenue generation component and the operational expertise at the highest level of power conferences, and you can get that person to actually join your team, that's called a big win.
Yeah, don't miss the part that he talked about there. That was a giant part of Kelly's job as the COO at LSU, was revenue generation in the new revenue share era. We explained this a little bit, but that was her job. Remember, we said this over and over again, but everyone just had $20.5 million expense added to their balance sheet to pay the players. So to be able to do that, you got to do two things. You got to decrease expenses and increase revenue. So, I mean, decreasing expenses, we've talked plenty about how that's going to go about, but you don't just find $20 million in revenue. You got to get creative in the way you do that. That's largely what Kelly was charged with at LSU, along with also being the operator, the administrative operator for gymnastics and football, overseeing those two sports primarily. She's dynamic and she's awesome. I mean, it's rare that you get someone who speaks so, who people speak so universally highly of, and is universally respected. That's Kelly. So it was only a matter of time before she got this opportunity. And she actually, in her introductory press conference, was asked about that, about finally getting an opportunity now, in her mid-40s, after being at Maryland and West Virginia, now LSU as the CEO, finally getting the opportunity. She was passed over at Georgia Tech for the job, but now finally getting the opportunity to be an AD.
This has been a goal of mine for many times. You'll hear my husband say she's been an assistant coach for 25 years. She was ready to be the head coach. And he gave me this opportunity. And that's something that I will never, ever take for granted. And I just thank him dearly for putting me up here and giving us this chance to come together again and accomplish excellence.
So Kelly Zinn introduced as new athletics director at Rutgers. That is a tough job. There's no way around it. There is just no history anyway. Well, it's odd because they actually have the oldest history. The first ever college football game was played at Rutgers in 1865, whatever, 1860, whatever it was. The first ever, so they call it the birthplace of college football. If you go to at their stadium there, you walk under an archway, it says, well, Rutgers, the birthplace of college football. But subsequent to that, they have no history. You could make an argument, a very strong argument, that Rutgers is the worst Power 4 college football program in the country. Historically, the lack of success, all of it. So that's a challenge, and then they just aren't very competitive in the other major sports as well. So a very difficult job that Kelly Zinn is taking on. It's not like walking into an SEC job. She applied, was a finalist for the Georgia Tech job. They went a different direction. But she is an AD now at Rutgers, and wish her well. But the bigger question here locally, of course, is now LSU's got to replace Kelly Zinn. So what do they do in that role? That'll be interesting to see what direction Scott Woodward goes. All right, it's After Further Review. We're brought to you by Shawbills Tire and Auto Service. ShawBillsTire.com, ShawBillsTire.com. Locations all over South Louisiana. If you're making a couple weeks before the kiddos get back to school, if you're making that final road trip, that last-ditch road trip, that last little getaway vacay before the kiddos get back to school, make sure you bring your vehicle to Shawbills. One more jaunt to the beach or maybe over to Texas, up to the mountains in Tennessee, wherever you're going. Disney, make sure your car is safe. It'll get you there, and your tires are good and tip-top shape and ready to go. Shawbills can make that happen. They've been doing it since 1968. When you buy tires at Shawbills, you're going to get name-brand tires at wholesale prices, and they're going to treat you like family to keep you coming back year after year after year. So if you need your oil change, your tires rotated, your windshield wipers replaced, brakes are squeaking, whatever the case may be, check engine lights on, something's going on with your vehicle, get it to Shawbills. They'll treat you great. They'll take care of it. It's at Shawbills. ShawBillsTire.com. ShawBillsTire.com. Shawbills, where we keep you rolling. All right, do it every day about this time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference. The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Redshirt senior linebacker Deontay Lawson returned to practice for the first day of camp on Wednesday. He'd been out since an ACL injury in November. He was wearing a right knee brace during drills, but was out there, which was great to see for the Crimson Tide. Senior had 76 tackles, 6.5 for loss, 2 sacks last year before the injury.
The Auburn Tigers.
Hugh Freeze has updated Malcolm Simmons' status following his domestic violence arrest here at the start of fall camp. He is not available right now. I'm sorry, he is available. Remember, he was arrested and charged with domestic assault with strangulation or suffocation back in mid-July. But apparently, pretty good player, so no worries. Let him get out there and play. So all of the preliminary hearings been moved up. It was scheduled for August the 13th. Now it'll take place 5 days earlier. So Malcolm Simmons will be back there with Auburn. Amazing contrast to Trey Holly situations. He's been waiting a year and a half for his day in court.
The Florida Gators.
Asa Turner suffered a season-ending hamstring injury in November. In the opener against Miami last year. Just hasn't been able to get healthy since. Billy Napier confirmed Turner will retire from football after battling those injuries for 3 years. He was a standout at Washington, the University of Washington, on their runner-up team. After that, Kalen DeBoer left, Asa Turner left, and went down to Florida. Just hasn't been able to get healthy. Is now retiring from football.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Hogs are going to honor Darren McFadden with a jersey patch and retire his number 5. No way to do it. The only other retired numbers are Clyde Scott's number 12 and Brandon Burlsworth's number 77. So McFadden's 5 will be honored in Reynolds Razorback Stadium as well. Of course, Darren McFadden, a 2-time Heisman runner-up, finished with 4,590 rushing yards and a school record 41 touchdowns.
The South Carolina Gamecocks.
And Wesley Mallette has been named the new Deputy Athletics Director and Chief Marketing Officer for Gamecocks Athletics. The announcement came here this week. He'd previously been at the University of California, Riverside, where he'd most recently been the school's athletic director. So from small school AD to Power 5 Deputy AD, trying to generate new revenue and strategic communications there in Columbia. All right, there you have it. There is Around the SEC. Our Hump Day shows are brought to you by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com, yourgoodwood.com. Hormone replacement therapy, that's part of what they do. ED treatments, of course, part of what they do over at Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness, but only part of what they do. Men, young or old, if you want to regain that vitality safely, affordably, they can help you do it at Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Ask about NAD Plus therapy, literally making your cellular biology younger. Ask about things like BPC 157, Body Protection Compound 157. The more and more you hear about it, research being done on BPC 157, aiding in recovery. If you have injuries you're trying to recover from, pain that's persistent, BPC 157 could be a miracle for you. These peptides are incredible. You can learn more about them. They're affordable. They're safe. They're available at Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Yourgoodwood.com. Visit yourgoodwood.com. All right, y'all, it's After Further Review. Glad you're hanging out with us here on this Hump Day edition. We'll knock out a quick break. Kat Terrell will be here in about 45 minutes from right now. Excuse me, about 30 minutes from right now. We'll ask her about this. The Saints did sign an offensive lineman who was at practice today. We'll tell you about him next. It's AFR.
AFR.
Glow Resources, complete employer solutions. I say it that way. You know, they for a long time over at Glow, their slogan was complete employee solutions. And about a year ago or so, they changed it. Maybe it's been a couple of years now. I don't know. Time runs together. Because as they really started to examine what that meant, really what they're offering are solutions for you, the employer, you, the business owner, you, the operations manager, you, the VP of personnel, whatever it may be. If your job is to find people in your business to make you more efficient and you're having trouble finding skilled blue-collar workers, maybe people that meet the criteria you need, either as far as certifications or just reliability. Maybe you're having trouble finding C-level management. Maybe you just can't find that right candidate or client. Glow Resources can help. Visit them online at glowresources.com. They are complete employer solutions.
After Further Review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
The Saints have announced the addition on the offensive line. They've agreed to terms with offensive tackle Jonathan Mendoza. This is an interesting one because he began his career in the Ivy League at Yale before transferring and finishing his career at Louisville, where he played with Tyler Shuck. So he's a big 6'9" offensive tackle. This is the corresponding move that the Saints made with letting another one of their offensive linemen go earlier in the week. A 6'9", 310. He's an undrafted free agent. Again, played collegiately for 5 seasons with Yale, and then a graduate season with Louisville in 2024, and now is rejoining his college teammate Tyler Shuck in New Orleans with the Saints. Kellen Moore, the Saints hosted like 9 players for workouts, some offensive linemen, some punters, and Kellen Moore, after practice on Wednesday, talked about hosting those workouts.
Through this process, you're always trying to work multiple guys out just to put yourself in position if something were to happen, if you need to make a transition, or we'll see what happens. So we had a couple punters, a couple offensive linemen, a couple linebackers, so you're always kind of doing that throughout training camp.
You know, it's interesting whenever you look at a 53-man roster, you're going to keep 8 or 9 offensive linemen. So you know you're going to have your starting 5, and then typically you're going to want a center, an interior lineman, and a tackle. And the more versatile a player, the better, because they could play multiple spots. It's why a guy like Will Clapp is so valuable. It's why Will Clapp will stay in the NFL for a long time, because while he may not be an all-pro or Pro Bowl caliber center or guard, he isn't a capable starting NFL center or guard. So and he's a very smart player as well. with great experience. And having been with the Chargers with Kellen Moore, he knows what Kellen Moore expects in the offense. So it's one of those things where if, God forbid, something were to happen to Eric McCoy, Will Clapp could step in and play center. Or if Cesar Ruiz goes down, Will Clapp could step in and play guard. So the more versatile you are, that's why guys like Andres Pete were so valuable. He was your starting left guard, but he could also play left or right tackle. Senio Clemente, if you remember him with the New Orleans Saints, he was such a valuable guy because he could play left tackle or he could play any of 4 spots on the offensive line in a pinch. So those guys are really valuable. I just look at the Saints. You know who your starting 5 are already. Those backup spots are, like when you look at a guy like Dylan Radins, who's played a ton of football, you got to believe Dylan Radins is ultimately going to win one of those spots. Will Clapp, who I just mentioned, I think is probably going to win another. So that leaves really only maybe one more spot on the offensive line, maybe 2 on the 53-man roster. So it is a real stretch to assume that, this signing today is going to be of any consequence, long-term, to think that you might actually have someone who makes the team. But, Jonathan Mendoza, but a guy maybe who has some comfort and familiarity with Tyler Shuck and probably nothing more than a camp body at this point. But Saints did make it official. They've added Jonathan Mendoza on the offensive line to the roster. All right, we're not going to break. SportsCenter's coming up. Notre Dame's AD has weighed in on the college football playoff convo.
AFR.
We're brought to you by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's.com. Rouse's.com. Of course, if you're watching any of the practice highlights of Saints practice, or if you're getting down to New Orleans to watch Saints practice, you'll see on the Saints practice jerseys, they've got the Rouse's patch. Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints, and not just the official supermarket of the Saints. They've been voted by you the best supermarket in the best of 225 in Baton Rouge, and they've been voted the best supermarket in the entire Gulf South. They've got 70 different locations from Lake Charles to Orange Beach, and they have maintained, through its 65 years, they've maintained their local ownership. They are still owned by the Rouse family. And I can't speak highly enough of Rouse's and all the engagements and interactions that we've been able to have with them over the many years of our partnership, and hopeful for many, many more. The truckload sale's going on right now through August the 6th. Always a great time to shop and save at Rouse's. So do it right now with the truckload sale at Rouse's. This feels like home.